Please welcome to the stage Natalie Gochnour, Director of the Kem C Gardner Policy Institute.
Thanks, everybody. So excited to join you this morning. I was asked to share some data about Utah's international exports, and it's really my pleasure to share this research that was sponsored by Zions Bank. All of you have at your table a copy of the report that we've done, so you can follow along with that as you like. I want to thank our team at the David Eccles School of Business, University of Utah, Kem C Gardner Policy Institute, John Downen and Nate Lloyd, who helped with this research. Will you give them a hand? So I'm parenthetically asking the question, what does it mean to be the crossroads of the world? And of course, in a university environment, we're always looking for the evidence. And, you know, crossroads of the world, what I do know is that we're the undisputed crossroads of the West, and that's the seed corn for being crossroads of the world. So I want to just walk through that really briefly, going back in time, taking you all the way back to 1860, when the Pony Express came through Salt Lake City, where they wanted orphans preferred, right, to be the riders. But it's meaningful that it chose to come through Salt Lake City. A little bit later, we have what's called the Transcontinental Highway, the Lincoln Highway, which also came right through Salt Lake City. If you ever want to see remnants of this highway, go west of Utah Lake and you can actually see the foundational pieces still in place. But again, came through Salt Lake City. Now you knew this was coming. The Transcontinental Railroad, of course, this is where the nation connected at Promontory in May 10th of 1869, bringing the railroad through Salt Lake City, again making us crossroads of the West. Now we go a little bit further. We go to the Union Pacific Rail Network, where you can see the nationwide linkages. But if you look at Salt Lake City and see all of the lines, east, west, north, south, and you see the prominence of Salt Lake City as a crossroads of the West, we also see it in the interstate highway system today, where, of course, I-80, I-15, I-70, I-84 all come through the state of Utah. Actually, quite unusual to have 4 interstates linking in a state, particularly in the West. And then I'll take us to air travel, where Delta Airlines, the largest airlines in the world by revenue, has Salt Lake City as their western hub, and you can just kind of see how centrally located Salt Lake City is. And I'm going to do one more, just because it's such a proud moment for the ARPANET, the precursor to the internet, that was founded at 4 universities, Stanford, UC Barbara, UCLA, and our own University of Utah. And this is the original sketch that shows the 4 universities being connected. This is, I don't have the date written down here, but this is in the 70s. So give a call out to the youths, right? So if you look at, so now, you know, we kind of go to the evidence. That's the crossroads of the West. Let's kind of think about the crossroads of the world and our international engagement in the state. Exports per capita. If we look at it for all of our peers, I'm thinking the Western states, we rank 3rd among the Western states. That's a pretty big punch, right? We're outperforming on a per capita level the state of California in exports. Look at Colorado on this list here. We're more than double our neighbor to the east, which is larger and also has a claim to being a place of connection. So this is impressive work coming out of the state of Utah. We rank 30th in population size, 29th in economic size, and 16th in exports per capita among states. That's some pretty heavy punching above our weight. If we look at exports instead of per capita, but as a percent of our economy, it's 8.3% Utah, the median state, 6.1. So again, we are making these inroads to become an international trade powerhouse in our country. At the Gardner Institute, we also estimated what's the economic impact of all these exports. As you know, exports are incredible because they're not just redistributed within the state, but they actually go outside the state, outside the country, bring money into Utah that multiplies throughout the economy. We find a $16.7 billion in output from Utah's international exports, $8 billion in GDP, $4 billion in earnings, and about 72,000 jobs. It's hard to do a comparable there. So 72,000, that's about the population of Tooele County. That's how many jobs are in international exports in this state. If we look at exports over time, you can see sort of this pattern of up and down, up and down. Today, the most recent data, 2023, $17.4 billion in exports from Utah. And something really interesting, and I really can't emphasize this enough, but primary metals and unwrought gold is a real huge portion of our international exports. And in this graph, the gray shows you exports excluding gold, and the red shows you gold. And a couple of things I want you to note. First, see how big the gold is. Second, see how it varies, right? Depending on international prices and commodity demand. But if you look at the gray shaded area, that's the other exports, and you see that real steady, pretty much constant rise. And so that's Utah's export story over time. If we look at exports by country, the UK dominates. $7.1 billion of exports going to the UK. The vast majority of that, over $6 billion, is this gold, unwrought gold, as a byproduct of Rio Tinto and the Kennecott mine that makes its way over to the UK. You can see that the next largest trading partner is Canada, Mexico, our NAFTA countries, and then China and Japan, and then you can see the spread out of some of the other ones. If we look at what we're exporting, I already mentioned primary metals. It's 4 in every 10 dollars of exports are in primary metals. Then computers and electronics, chemicals, miscellaneous manufacturing, airbags when we get to transportation equipment. You can see food and kindred products. That's really where agriculture shows its place in exports, and you can kind of follow that on down. I wanted to give a tangible example, and Great Salt Lake came to mind. We've been doing a lot of work on our beautiful inland sea, if you will. The minerals extracted from Great Salt Lake find their way into almost everyone's cell phones, laptops, soda cans, airplane wings, medical devices, and more. 40 to 50% of the world's supply of brine shrimp eggs come from that salty sea, and they're going to places like China, Ecuador, Israel, Indonesia, Vietnam. This is Utah, right? Projected to the national stage from something that's very unique in our state. I also thought it would be fun. I know Bishop Kazay spoke yesterday and has obviously incredible data about the humanitarian outreach of this incredible state, but we can actually see it in the export data, where relief and charity exports averaged nearly 2,000 tons per year over the last decade, going to places like Haiti, Honduras, Guatemala, taking 60% of the aid shipments. That's another place where we should give ourselves a hand for serving the international community. It's natural, if you think about exports, to also think about imports, and we import a lot. In fact, we import more right now than we export. We are importing about $18.6 billion worth of products into the Beehive State. That's pretty interesting. What are they? Well, they're coming from Mexico, they're coming from Canada, China, Taiwan, Vietnam, and you can see the rest. So a pretty interesting story about the international engagement through imports. And again, primary metals tops the list. Crazy, right? We export primary metals, we import it, and then we export it again. A lot of it comes here and is manufactured here. So that's the export story, is primary metals. But you can see computers, electronics, transportation equipment. So you're making airbags and you're exporting them, but you're also importing some of the products that go into airbags. So that's what you see there. Now, interestingly, we currently have what you might think of at a state level, a trade imbalance. In fact, for 3 consecutive years, we have imported more than we've exported, and you can see that relationship here. This is very tied to what happens in those volatile exports of gold. So good for you to see that. So in summary, I just want to say that we are the undisputed crossroads of the West, and we are making gains as a global crossroads. We have incredible international strength, as ranking 16th in the nation in per capita exports. Our volume is $17.4 billion in exports, $18.6 billion in imports. You can see what the details are, the trading partners, the economic impact. And I want to just close, since we get to spend time today with Bush 43, as we like to call him, President George W. Bush, with two fun facts. When I think of Texas, I think of barbecue grills. Both Utah and Texas export basically barbecue grills. We did 386,000 in 2023, Texas 673. So they got us on that. But interestingly, ours is a higher value by weight. So I think we're doing more quality than Texas. And then John Downen is an art connoisseur, the author of this report. And he reminded me also that we export paintings from Utah, and so does Texas. They've got us beat there on volume, but once again, we have them beat. Well, sorry, they have us beat in the demand in terms of the export paintings by poundage. One of the last prominent times when President Bush was here was on February 8th, the day of opening ceremony of 2002 in the Olympic Winter Games. You see here Air Force One at our airport, the snow that dusted our state, and President Bush addressed an audience at the state capitol. The tabernacle at Temple Square sang the Battle Hymn of the Republic behind him. It was powerful, it was so meaningful, and it just reminds me of what we have as an international stage in this state to project our goodwill and our incredible economy to others. That's a summary of Utah's exports and imports. Thank you so much.